Today is a cautionary tale about fasting on the carnivore diet. In carnivore circles, you see a lot of talk about intermittent fasting, which scientifically speaking isn't really fasting anyway. According to the best science, true fasting begins at 72 hours without consuming any calories. No bone broth, no small amounts of protein, nothing. 72 hours without food. Intermittent fasting typically is you eat in a time restricted window. I think a more honest term for describing it is time restricted eating. Most beginners at intermittent fasting go for a 16-hour fast, meaning they don't eat from a certain time, say in the evening, to a certain time in the morning, and then they consume all their calories in the day in that 8-hour window, whether it's one meal, 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals if they want, but they aim for whatever they're aiming for to be consumed in that 8-hour window. Slightly more advanced would be to do an 18-hour fast with 6-hour window, a 20-hour fast with a 4-hour window, a 23-hour fast with one meal basically in that 1-hour window, whatever it is. People will typically, after a while, take and go for like harder mode on intermittent fasting, where they're not aiming for that 72-hour fast quite yet, but they start deciding to fast for longer than a full day. And here's where the cautionary tale comes in. A couple of weeks ago, I decided I was going to periodically do a longer fast, a 34-hour fast, I think is what I was aiming for. I had done these before for religious and spiritual reasons a couple times a year. You know, do it on Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, that kind of thing. But beyond that, long fasts weren't really something I did. I would do and still do a 16-hour fast, 17-hour fast. Sometimes life keeps you from eating on your schedule, right? Well, I decided to add in a few times a month recently the longer 34 or 36-hour fast. So a couple of weeks ago, I had my last meal on the day at, it would have been around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I went the entire next day, including my workout, without consuming any calories. I had water that had some natural, had caffeine in it, but it was not, there was no calories, no flavoring, it was just water. I had electrolytes. I had at least one packet of Element electrolytes during the day. I had planned to have 3, but I actually did something that is a good way to persevere during a fast if you're not used to fasting, which is I kept myself busy, went out and ran errands. So I drank a lot of water, kept my stomach full with a lot of water, a little bit of Topo Chico type drinks, but I consumed electrolytes. And that helped a lot probably. And then I went that entire day without food. And the next day before working out, I had some very clean bone broth, no plants, no nothing, just a little bit of bone broth. And I had a Chomps meat stick. And I went to the gym and it was great. I didn't feel hunger at all during that workout until the last exercise, which it was leg day. So it was like I was finishing with calf extensions, which with the history of obesity, calf extensions are purely optional. I've got fat guy calves and, you know, I just worked them because it's a good idea to work them at least once in a while. So I went home, broke my fast properly with, I'd broken it before the workout, like I said, but, had a proper meal that day, probably a little more than I normally would have, but it was fine. I didn't have any negative repercussions. So the next week, did it again. Ate dinner, 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon. Didn't eat it all the next day. Noticeably was hungrier that second time, because I was doing it 2 consecutive weeks in a row on the same day. And then Saturday, I broke the fast basically the same way, went to the gym, and the workout was brutally hard. I couldn't finish it. Came home, was ravenous, ate far more than I should have, not at that one meal, but over the course of the day. And I was also running to the bathroom a lot. That was new. And so I started looking up more about fasting, doing a little harder of the due diligence that I should have been doing that I didn't do this time. And when you're doing these harder fasts, the lesson to be learned here is that you should probably, it's fine to do a 34-hour fast, a 36-hour fast if you're not used to them, to try it. But 2 weeks in a row is probably not a good idea. So mistake was made on my part. and I'm still paying for it almost a week later. So, workouts have been harder. I suspect I lost magnesium more than my body would normally go through, more than, electrolyte drinks can replace, more than I'm replacing with sodium, from Redmond's Real Salt or whatnot. I suspect I lost more of that than is normal. I'm going to probably have some organ meat in the next couple days, a couple times in the next couple days, which has become unusual for me in an attempt to replace it. And I'm going to probably do something that was requested of me early when I started this channel, which was I did a video on K2 D3 sources from purely animals, like flesh sources of K2 and D3. And I think I might do something like that on magnesium and potassium because, this is not everybody wants to drink electrolytes. Some people want to just go hard mode lion diet and want to get magnesium and potassium from animal sources. So I may have to go look into that and report back on what I've learned. So I'm going to probably hold off on the long fasting for a couple more weeks before I try it again. I'll report back when that happens. So I'm curious though, what are your experiences with long fasting? And yes, I'm familiar with the work of Dr. Jason Fung. I've watched his videos on fasting. I've seen some of Dr. Bart Kay's videos on fasting. I've seen others talk about fasting. And I just thought I was ready because I'd done these long fasts before. I just had never done them 2 weeks in a row. Lesson learned. Let me know what your experience with longer fasts are. If you've gone longer than 36 hours, I know some of you have. If you've gone to 72 hours, let me know. Curious how you broke that fast, what the effects you felt after, and how long you noticed them for. Working out fast was never something I've ever had a problem with. I just got back from the gym. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday afternoon. It's early in the morning. I'm not breaking my fast for at least 2 more hours, probably closer to 3. So, I work out fasted as a normal thing, fasted by intermittent fasting standards, not by actual scientific fasting standards. Well, let me know what your experience with fasting is. I'm curious if you've done longer fasts, 72 hours, 96 hours. I've seen people talk about wanting to do 7-day fasts. Not sure I want to do that, but you never know. Might be a good practice to have once a year to know what happens when you do that and what to expect. But let me know in the comments what your experiences are and what you thought of this, and if you have any tips for me on this as just a normal person doing carnivore, from one normal person doing carnivore to another. I'm very curious what your experiences are with this, and like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. And as always, thanks for watching today.